What's up, people? It's your one and only Green Wingman, and I just got out of work just a couple minutes, like probably a couple hours ago, so I never had a chance to sleep. But yeah, that was pretty much a disastrous game last night, as the Delaware Valley and all Philadelphia are reeling for a horrible, stinking loss to the Seattle Seahawks. I think it was 24-10. So yeah, I just want to give you my thoughts about last night's game. I actually did record this last night in my car. However, like the lights in my car went off, so and you really couldn't see my face, so I really didn't have a chance to post it. But yeah, that's obviously was not a good game. I wouldn't say they got exposed. I think they just poorly executed in that game. Starting with the quarterback was Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz played okay, but didn't do well. I understand Carson Wentz had some really big plays. You know, I think was that 57-yard throw to Nelson Aguilar, and then another sweep in play action Nelson Aguilar that got us a touchdown. But I think it was every great play that he's had that he need to do to just try to catch up. I think you look at pretty much some of the more obvious plays, like missing an open Nelson Aguilar on stride. If he had just simply sit down and hit him in the second half of that game, Nelson Aguilar would pretty much been from going from Seattle all the way to China. Was that particular play? Same issue came was the miss of Kenyon Barner when pretty much the entire pressure and rush that came to him. If he just simply had just put that drop in the bucket, I think he would honestly, um, I think that he would honestly have been also go for a touchdown. So I think right there you left some literally left 14 points untouched. I think the Eagles could have capitalized if they just had executed better. And then the fumble, the play action was Carson Wentz, who sat down to go in to take the touchdown for himself, which and at the end the ball was set like was ripped apart, and for the ball to kind of fall into the end zone, which calls for a touchback. So yeah, a lot of sloppy plays, and I think it just came just for the bewilderment that Carson Wentz experienced of that 12th man, that is the Seattle Seahawks and their fan base, as well as the very good young defensive backs from Seattle. Man, they looked very good for a team that didn't have any Richard Jeffers, for a team that didn't have no Sherman or Cam Chancellor. For Earl Thompson to just hold it down the way that he did in that middle, I think it's really tough. The team, once they were able to make a move, that defensive front was able just to squeeze on them very quickly. And yeah, I think it was just such a not a really good game, and then it just sat down and snowballed with um, the the running play. Um, was a really good running play with Garrett Blunt, which eventually sadly I had to get called back because Alshon Jeffrey wasn't holding, made a poor hold. Um, yeah, I just think it was just a really, and then just the penalties started to build up on there, which really didn't help. And it was just very poor execution, just pretty much throughout this whole entire game was just really bad. A lot of issues that I have to sit down and come through. Also was a little bit was Doug Peterson's play calling. I think this in that game and in that situation. I mean, I know some people weren't against Doug going for, I guess, like the fourth quarter in a situation where I think they had to go for three. Well, first of all, I think before that play, um, there was a challenge, I believe, where Alshon Jeffrey did. I think he got the first down. It was clearly his beyond lines, but however, I guess it became one of those situations where, um, I guess it wasn't enough exclusive evidence, even though it's clear that he did cross the line. So I think the fact that he lost that challenge earlier affected that next challenge, and the one that everybody knows, where Russell Wilson made I think, a forward lateral. That was, I think, illegal. I think you're not allowed to do a forward lateral. Where the game really was kind of at its critical, pretty much at its critical peak, and for some reason he didn't have the wherewithal to challenge it, because I think it was just fear of the fact that he already burned a another timeout in the second half, believing that he might needed both timeouts at the end of the game, um, to make a challenge. So I can understand the difficult part about that. But if that's what's going to happen, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if we're going to sit here and talk about analytics, I think this is where analytics needs to show its praise in situations like that. So maybe they didn't have enough exclusive evidence for them to know if it was a true lateral pass to be able to sit down to make the challenge. But I think this really goes to the idea of where, if I'm not gonna, no one can relate to Bill Belichick, but I think Bill Belichick is, and guys like Sean Payton and even people like Pete Carroll have, I think, that wherewithal, that essence, that feeling of the game, to be able to feel and be able to make critical calls. And I think Doug Peterson had that for a little bit though, but I guess it's maybe against maybe very easy teams, unfortunately at this point. Another mistake I think that Doug Peterson, and I think one of my biggest issues, and I think they did go, was to get the running game going, and I think which they did. But I thought maybe, knowing the whirl of a type of defense that they were playing, a very fast young defense, I thought he would maybe focus, put more of Jay Ajayi, who, was very angry to the fact that he didn't get enough carries in the game, and a little bit of Corey Clement, who could have been more of your change of pace back and kind of be that shifty pack that throws people in there. And I probably would have even mixed in Kenyon Barner, because I think Kenyon Barner also has a little bit more youth and speed over LeGarrette Blount. Not to say that LeGarrette Blount wasn't useful. I think for a certain game, I think it's understanding personnel and understanding who certain plays is. And I think LeGarrette Blount kind of, I think Garrett Blunt kind of showed his age a little bit in that game. Failure to be able to hit a lot of those holes really quick. But once again, going to Seattle and facing that young defense, man, I don't think it was. I just don't think they were able to close up those holes really quickly. Where I think a lot of the running backs didn't have enough time to be able to plant their feet and make the cuts that they need to move forward. Another issue too, I noticed a lot through the game. Also with the defense, I think the defense did what best they could. Listen, Russell Wilson is a slippery sob. I think Russell Wilson is like, has the DNA of a spider monkey, because that man is so agile to get around. And Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson noticed how they did basically with Aikido on our defense, and the fact that they used their speed and their force and was able to wear them down with it. They knew exactly. It sucks to have a front seven to be able to rush everybody, and there's nothing you can sit down and do about it, man. Because Russell Wilson is just that incredibly agile, incredibly that fast, and be able to just extend plays for a long period of time, that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your corners are. Those your secondary cannot stay with every wide receiver and tight end on that team for a very long time. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my thoughts about the game. Um, it's a sucky loss, but at least it was a loss to a very good, battle tested playoff team that's able to win in situations like this. Hopefully the Eagles sat down and took a piece of humble pie, as probably this whole fan base, waking up early this morning. And yeah, I think this is just information that they got to sit down and learn from it, and hopefully they get better, with this, from this loss, as they get prepared for a Rams game. That being said, now this Rams game becomes very, very important. This is a game they need to win if they have any shot of even securing the top spot, either even a first round spot, which after the loss of this game might be gone. But at least even secure maybe a second round bye. I think it's very important at this point now, because now The NFC East just got very tight. The Vikings won against the Atlanta Falcons, which I was sadly disappointed. So now they take the first seed. Um, the Saints are still a very good team. They're still right on that hunt with their running back Dynam and having a veteran in Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Um, the, the Green Bay's not out of it. Green Bay's not out of it. They won their game with Brent Hundley, and there's even rumors that the boogeyman in Aaron Rodgers might return to finish off the rest of the season. So the NFC just got a whole lot tighter. You really needed to win this game to kind of separate yourselves in, and then I think they would have the busyness to the throw all to go in there. And now you're looking at a situation where now those games that you thought you could probably sat down and rest, say like the Raiders game and the Cowboys game. I think the Eagles might now have to sit down and play all those games now. The NFC just got incredibly tough after last night for the Eagles because the Raiders just won, and the Raiders are still in playoff contention. And you got to understand the Cowboys will be getting Ezekiel Elliott back at the end of the year, and maybe Charlene will be back. So you're going to be playing against a full team, and at that point, you might have to play all of your starters to maybe try to secure a first round bye. The situation becomes very dire. That's why the Eagles need to win this upcoming game against the LA Rams and stop Jared Goff and that very explosive offense. But other than that, I'm not gonna. That's pretty much my thoughts. What did you guys think of last night's game? I'm very curious to hear your comments down below. Also, make sure to check out my Twitter page and sign up to that as well. And I would love to hopefully have more conversation with you guys too, man. To get a little bit of a conversation going down. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Until then, this is a Green Wig Man in a crappy Monday morning. Until then, guys, see you around.